All right, so now that we know what domain is, it means that without a client-server network, we cannot have a domain. So let's create a client-server network. So what we want to do now is install and configure Active Directory services. Let's do it. So we come to the screen, come here, and then we say add roles and features. Okay, you are wondering, where did I get that from? Okay, so if you come here without that, to invoke that, you click this, all right, your Windows, and then you see Server Manager. So it brings this up. So you say add roles and feature, and then it starts here. All right. So before you begin, and just read this to understand it better, but basically here you say next. Role based, leave it there and say next. Select a server from the server pool. It's saying amongst the many servers that you have, which one are you trying to configure? In this case, I have only one server, and this is the server. So already highlighted. If I have one, only that one will be highlighted. If I had many, then I will choose the server that I want to configure. Then I will highlight. In this case, it's one. So I'll say next. What do I want to configure here? These are the possible things I can configure on this server, the possible service. But the one I want to configure for this service is Active Directory Domain Services. Look at it. Add feature. Active Directory. Yeah, I said Active Directory Services. It's okay. You cannot. It can also be called Active Directory Domain Services. But most of the time, just say Active Directory Services without the middle name. Okay, I'm hoping you are still seeing me and you are hearing me. So Active Directory Services is the service that I must install to make that server a domain controller. But like I said earlier on, it will always pull along, whether you highlight or not, your DHCP as well as your DNS. Anytime you click it, you need to come here to say, what's the problem? Well, if I continue and it doesn't work, I may have to go back and find out what the issue is. But right now, let me still just continue. Looks like that server is not has a problem. Okay, so at the end of the day, I have selected 3 services. I've selected Active Directory Services, I've selected DHCP server, and I've selected DNS server. So by the time I'm done with this configuration, this server will no longer be just a server. It will be my domain controller, my DHCP server, as well as my DNS server. Next. Confirmation. Install. All right. So the installation is taking place. What's being installed? Those 3 services: DHCP, DNS, Active Directory. They are now being installed. Of course, so many things will be installed. They contain so many components that will be installed as these 3 major components are being. So that's going to take a while. While that is going on, any question? So we are trying to set up a client server network by setting up the domain, and also, in fact, in setting up the domain controller, the domain is automatically set up as. All right, questions?
Okay. So you said
Hello?
DNS.
I have a question.
Yeah, I said the DNS. Yeah,
yes, the DNS. So I know DNS is domain name server, but DHCP.
Yeah, we'll do that in detail. But DHCP is basically the server that generates and automatically assign IP addresses to computers on the client server network. Okay. So you bring your client on Cyber Cafe, you need to have an IP address that the Cyber Cafe recognizes in order to share internet with you. How did you get that? Their DHCP server automatically assigned to you an IP address when you plugged in your cable, Cyber Cafe cable, or you connected to their Wi-Fi. It did that for you automatically. So that's what DHCP does. Dynamic host configuration protocol. Dynamically, automatically configures your device with an IP address. Yes. What's the other question?
My question is, can we set it up one after the other? Like what we did now, we bundle up the 3, AD, the DHCP, and DNS. Can we pick it one after the other for setup?
Yes, if you want to. Once you install DHCP, finish the work, it takes all this time, and then you go back to configure DHCP, and then you go back to configure DNS. That's what you mean, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But remember that what you are being paid for by your employer is your efficiency. So why would you want to break into 3 parts what you can do once? But to answer your question, yes. All right. Questions?
Just my question is this. Okay. We have DHCP enabled on this installation. And at the same time, the network we're building, like our switches, the router, already have DHCP enabled. What do we do? Because I'm thinking there will be some kind of interaction between them. The server is DHCP enabled, and the router we have on the network is DHCP enabled also. Which one should we do to disable?
Yeah, but this network we are building now, we are building it from scratch. So no router, no switches, no other DHCP server. However, when we get to that level where we where we can resolve those conflicts easily. Because even later on, we're going to create our own DHCP server separately here.
Okay.
So that is easily resolvable. We'll do it. All right, it's still loading. Configuration, is it done? Configuration required, install it, close. So what do we have here? So now we have, I don't know if you noticed the first time, we didn't have ADDS, DHCP, and DNS. We did not have it when we started. Now we have them there. So they are now installed. Installation is different from configuration. So if we go there to that caution sign, we will see configuration required. That means installation has completed, but you need to configure. First of all, complete DHCP configuration, add rules. Okay, so what we want to do is click this button to complete the DHCP configuration. We say commit and we say close. DHCP is done. Go back to that caution sign and then configuration completed for DHCP server. Okay, no problem. That one is done. What about this? We need to continue to configure in order to promote this server to become a domain controller. I don't know if you can see it there, but what it says here is promote this server to a domain controller. All right. So I click that and then I'm ready to promote now. So this is where the configuration starts. What we did the first time was install. Now we are configuring. So add a domain controller to an existing domain, or add a new domain to an existing forest, or add a new forest. Which one do you want to do? So like I said earlier, this is a brand new domain controller, brand new forest, nothing at all. This is a fresh service. So there is nothing exists. So what we should do is add a new forest. What's the name of the forest you want to add? Let's call it any name. Instagram. No. Let's use this simple. I already used
COVID-19.
COVID. Okay. COVID-19.
Yes, sir.
.com. All right. So the root domain name is COVID-19.com. So domain name would usually take this form. This form of naming is called frequently what's the word now? Fully qualified domain name. FQD. This naming convention, this kind of naming convention, where you say something so fully qualified domain name. So we enter a domain name like that. Did you get that? And then we say next. All right. Select function level for this new domain. Just leave it. Anytime you have next, unless you have to change, don't change anything. So who am I? Who is allowed to do this? The administrator. So what's the administrator's password? Okay. And then, all right. So I've entered the password just to make sure it's the right person that is doing this. I say next. Don't worry about that sign. It's not important. A delegation for this DNS. Specify DNS delegation option. Don't really have to do this. No, don't worry about that. Next, verify the net BIOS name assigned to the domain and change it if necessary. Net BIOS is old fashioned. I don't need it. So whatever it gives me, I'll just accept. Next. When you are doing yours, take time to read this and understand what they mean. But for me, I already know. Next. The pro is checking everything. Is everything fine? Is the system okay? All the protocols, are they active? Are they where they should be? Let's give it time to check. Checking prerequisites, and it checks everything and it gives you a green light to say everything is good. I'm ready to install now. So you click install. All right. So again, that's going to take a while. While that one is going on, let us ask questions and make sure we are following.